New data revealed by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation reveals that 1 in 3 suspensions of police officers in Ontario are due to domestic violence and sexual assault. The investigation looked at reports from the past 10 years showing a pattern of violence against women. The problem is systemic and not just a few isolated cases. The investigation determined that 453 cases of suspensions with pay in Ontario over the past decade at a cost of $134 million, according to the CBC investigation. Now, the research showed that more than 1/3 of the allegations leading to officer suspension in 2013 involved gender-based violence, including sexual assault, domestic violence, and sexual harassment. Danielle McNabb, an assistant professor who researches Canadian public law at Brock University, said, "In the literature on gender-based violence, police are disproportionately perpetrators of particularly domestic violence. I do think that this really constitutes the tip of the iceberg from what we know about the pervasive underreporting of gender-based violence." The investigation showed that many of the victims, the wives, girlfriends, partners of the officers, were also serving in law enforcement. Police have been victimizing their own, and it has gone unnoticed by the media until now, largely because these statistics are not regularly kept and they're not published to the public. A major complaint by those who've been victimized by the police say they've received no support from those police and have had intimidation tactics used against them. Many of the female officers say that their careers have been harmed by the abuse that they've suffered and have reported. In 2016, a female officer, Kelly Donovan, who had been abused by one of her own department, took a day off to present her concern to Waterloo's Police Services Board in an attempt to encourage new policies with regards to investigating fellow officers. A few days later, she was reprimanded. Her chief forbid her from appearing at future board meetings without the chief's permission. She was subsequently put on administrative leave. The CBC's research found that 36% of officers accused of crimes involving gender-based violence were convicted. By contrast, the rate of conviction was 41% for other charges, including drug trafficking, fraud, impaired driving, and assault. In those cases of sexual violence going back to 2013, the CBC determined that almost 1/3 of all those convicted of the offense will return to work after having fulfilled their disciplinary requirements, such as a conditional discharge. To make matters even more disturbing, it was revealed that these convicted domestic abusers have also worked on domestic assault and sexual abuse units before and after their suspensions. When police are convicted of such crimes, they're given administrative leave, meaning they get to stay home and collect a paycheck for nothing. One such Greater Toronto Area officer was suspended with pay for a total of 646 days, receiving almost $300,000 in salary before he finally resigned his position. The damage they do, all too well known. Kerry Lewis, the executive director of Ottawa's Interval House, which offers shelter and support services to women and children fleeing abuse, said she's witnessed survivors of police abuse come through the door. We all know in the U.S., about 40% of police families experience intimate partner violence compared to about 10% of the population. To know that on a large scale, the province, that there have been multiple officers who have been convicted of abuse and harassment, and they've been allowed back into their roles as police officers in the positions of authority is really troubling. Officers are the same as us. They're meeting people at the most challenging, traumatic times of their lives. To have the honor of entering people's lives in these incredibly vulnerable times, they should be held to a much higher standard. This report comes at a time when fatal encounters with the police are on the rise in Canada. According to a watchdog group tracking injustice, this trend of lethal incidents has been rising since the year 2000. Since January 2023, there have been 83 deaths while in custody and almost 2,000 deaths in custody since the year 2000. This conduct is simply inexcusable. The blue wall of silence is being used to intimidate women who have been the victim of violence. The police are supposed to be the protectors of the public, not abusers. To place the police that have been convicted of assaulting women on cases where assault on a woman is being investigated is simply unfathomable. It's disturbing that no centralized, updated data sets exist that track deaths and provides information about the person and location implicated in police services, the type of force used, and many other contextual details. It's nothing new for police to essentially walk away scot-free from the crimes they commit. And just recently, 2 Toronto police committed perjury when they falsely testified to what was happening during the Umar Zamir murder case. It's finally time that police officers are held accountable for the crimes that they commit.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.